Welcome all. It's draft night again on Primetime Mock, the show where we bring you a different industry draft with guests from all over the fantasy community every single week. I'm the host of this draft party, Mark Shu. You can find me on Twitter at Primetime Mock. Got my co-host with me, Joe Shuey. Shuey, it's the last prime time of the year. Season's about to kick off. How are we feeling right now?
It's kind of bittersweet. My favorite part of going into the NFL season are the drafts and doing all the prep and all the mocks and actually getting together with your friends and doing them. But, that just means one thing, that football is here and we actually get to watch every Sunday. I think, what is it, next week? We got football up until February. It's going to be a good time.
Thursday night, we've got that. Now I can't think of the game. Is it the Bills?
Bills Rams.
Bills and the Rams. Yeah, that's right. All right, so we're here doing this this last prime time of the season. We ended up doing a straight casual draft. It's just your first love, standard 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and we've got a great panel of guests this week. First up from Front Yard Fantasy, let's all say oh hi to Joey Wright. Joey, what's going on? You're on mute, Joey.
There we go. All right. Sorry, you muted me when we came in the room. So
how's everybody doing
tonight?
I did.
I'm doing great.
Yeah, we're doing great over here. Yeah. And again, there's that energy for the season to begin. We're all very excited for what's to come here. I cannot wait. Joe and I are going to be starting a DFS and betting show on Mondays this year. That's what we're going to be doing in season. I think we're really excited to start that this week. And just, it's fantasy draft season. I just had my big fantasy draft on Tuesday. I have another really big one, 2 really big ones this Saturday. I'm sure a lot of others out there do as well. But there's no better time of the year. Joey, how are you feeling this time of year?
I'm feeling really good. I've been doing lots of mock drafts this week. Love doing mock drafts. Can't get enough of them. Craig's picking behind me here, so that should be fun. He's been enjoying mock drafts all this week too. Yeah.
I was in the exact same spot, and Craig sniped me all Scott Fishbowl long. So enjoy that. That tonight.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he doesn't go bully tight end on you. This is not a tight end premium, Craig. I see you out there. And moving right along from fantasy football in 5, we have Parker Neal and Taylor Knowles. Guys, how's it going?
It's going all right, So I'm Taylor Knowlton. This is Parker, and we're at Fantasy Football in 5. Check us out. But more than that, we're excited to do some drafting. We got to do a lot of drafting the last couple of weeks, but more than that, this is kind of our last big hurrah before our season begins, if you think about it.
Oh yeah, and really you've got to do all your last minute cramming. So if you haven't really done any, sit down and we're going to talk about some of our strategies that we've thought through this whole fantasy season. What's changed and where we're looking to pounce and capitalize on value. Has anyone had any really exciting drafts going on this season? Or so far, has anyone had like their main home draft, like their home league draft? Mine was Tuesday night. I talked about that, and I had about $700 of a $1,000 salary cap, and I just went to town. So it took a really long time. It was exhausting. I feel really good about my team. I paid a little too much for Kirk Cousins, but really, there's no better feeling. Does anyone else have a home league draft story, or just one of their favorite draft, one of their favorite leagues they want to talk about here for a minute?
I know that we just did go ahead.
Oh no, sorry, go ahead, man.
We just had our listener league drafts. So Taylor is a commissioner of one of the 12-team leagues. I'm the commissioner of the other, and all of the podcast listeners joined that league with us. So we drafted those teams. One was a slower draft, one was a fast draft, but both wrapped up at least by yesterday. So those were probably our favorite drafts of the off season so far.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite moments?
Yeah. So in the fast draft, we had a guy queue up a bunch of players, and we did it on Sleeper, and he didn't put enough of each position. Like every so often, and so we ended up with 5 defenses. So
Oh no.
yeah, it was a sad sight, but he's hoping to rebuild.
That's funny.
Yeah, well, hey, you know what happens, and sometimes if people need defenses too, you know, you got to find a way to make that happen, make the trade happen. Yeah, okay, so we're here in the second round now. I took Chris McCaffrey at 1. Jonathan Taylor went 2. It felt like Jonathan Taylor for the longest time has been that running back 1 that everyone was talking about, really back since February. Some point in this offseason, just the health of McCaffrey has made it very easy for me to take him over Jonathan Taylor now. Is anyone in here still into Jonathan Taylor at 1?
No, I'm not. I made the switch to McCaffrey about two and a half weeks ago. I think Taylor's a little bit safer, but I'm taking all the upside on McCaffrey I can.
Yeah.
Go
ahead, guys.
I've been huge on McCaffrey this season. And I told Parker this offseason that I thought this was going to be the first season we've seen McCaffrey healthy for the full season, which when he's on the football field, no matter how long it is, he's always the best player. So you can't not take him, in my opinion.
I hope nobody got caught looking on the third round reversal. We like to have fun out here, if you know. So this is not your normal draft. We're only going 10 rounds. And guys, you know, you have a tight end spot, you have a quarterback. If you want to go late, that's fine, but still end up drafting them and talk about where you might consider taking them if you're going later on in the draft. Say you have a late round tight end, you're right. Take him in round 10 and say, hey, he's probably available in the 14th, the 15th round, but this is my tight end, and that's how we're going to talk about it. McCaffrey, Taylor. It feels like Justin Jefferson has really cemented himself in that top 5, and now I feel like it's almost like an automatic top 3 for a lot of people. I'm really excited about this Justin Jefferson season. Again, I've talked all off season about how excited I am for the Chase Jefferson dynamic, where both of them are competing against each other year after year after year, trying to make each other better and probably passing each other on some best wide receiver in the league conversation year after year. It's just something I'm really excited for. Is Justin Jefferson the one for you guys?
Well, since I'm a Vikings fan, I mean, obviously, you just asked a Vikings fan that, but to be honest, even if I wasn't a Vikings fan, I think he'd still be my top guy, because if you look at the outlook on some of the other receivers, a lot of their situations are changing, and that's not necessarily the case for Justin Jefferson as much. He's got more of the solidified situation, and if anything, I feel like he's going to get more of a target share, despite the fact that, you know, they have, you know, a couple of new moving pieces on that offense in terms of their wide receiver core. The emergence of KJ Osborne last season gives him another weapon, which in my opinion doesn't hurt Jefferson. It almost helps him, you know, pulls extra coverage. So, you know, he'll have more opportunities to have that one-on-one in which he's going to smoke anybody in the league. So I'll take him every day.
Yeah, I love it. Does anyone want to make a case for Chase or Stephon Diggs or Cooper Kupp or anyone in there? Or are we all pretty solid on Jefferson? We can move on if not.
Jefferson all the way home.
There we go. That sounds good. I'm glad to see it's a smart room tonight. Usually everybody here is smarter than me, but I'm glad to see you all real smart. You know, I am seeing Kelsey move his way out of the first round. I'm seeing him move his way back where he was an automatic. Now, when you see Andrews, Pitts, Kelsey all go in the same round, a few picks apart, I mean, has the edge on Kelsey been absolutely lost? And if it has been lost, are we even drafting the right tight end first?
Yeah, I mean, I would still take Kelsey in the first round. I think with Tyreek Hill out of there, I know vacated targets is kind of a myth, but somebody's got to get that red zone work in Kansas City. And I don't know which wide receiver to trust there. I'm pretty starting to get a little high on Juju right now, but Kelsey's going to get work this year. He's going to be the biggest target there in Kansas City. And the fact that Craig got him in the second round and I thought he was going to slip to me makes me a little upset.
I took Kelsey last night in my home league at number 9 in the first round.
And that's not a bad pick.
No, I wanted Swift, and Swift went right before me. So I was like, is it Swift or Kelsey? So I went with Kelsey. It was a keeper league, so the first round was had a little bit of guys that were missing. But even if it wasn't a keeper league, I'm still taking Kelsey in the back half of the first.
Swift is, I feel like, one of the most polarizing players I've seen in drafts this year. I've seen him go as high as like 5th and then as late as like mid-second round. And I just can't really get, okay, what's game first? Oh, Craig had to go auto.
Yes.
Yeah, I like Swift's upside. It's like, he showed last year. He did it a lot late in games last year, if you want to call it garbage time when they were down, but they were throwing the ball a lot. And it seemed like Swift always had like 4 or 5 points going into the late third, early fourth, and then next thing you know, he's got 10 catches and 80-something yards.
My clock.
See, I'm not sure what to think of Swift this season. I had him last year on my team, and obviously I enjoyed his season until he went down, but I'm torn because I'm almost thinking he might have a little bit of a small regression from last year just because there's more mouths in that Detroit offense, and the offense in general is a little bit better, which makes me wonder if they're going to, rely on him as much.
I think you might see him get more carries this year with the improved offensive line. I think, like you said, that team is definitely improved. I think that they could be a little dark horse to go close to 500 this year. And I think if they're going to be in games and close games, they want to control the clock. And I think Swift could get a lot more carries this year than he did last year, which, in the end of the day, could be a smaller regression. I see he was getting a lot of that PPR points last year, but he could still be one of the running backs that leads the league in targets this year.
Yeah. Running back overall is really interesting to me this year. Generally, after Taylor McCaffrey, there's still a lot of good talent that really puts. Even into, if you're looking at Zeke Elliott coming in the middle of the third round, James Conner in the early and Fournette in the early part of the third round. There are a lot of guys where if you don't have, McCaffrey obviously is like a cheat code, and that can't really be overstated. But after that, there are a lot of really talented guys that you could consider your RB1, especially in PPR leagues. And generally, I feel like by the middle of the third round, the end of the third round, I'm usually sort of out on running back. I'm really very into, Elliott coming back through. He's not off the board yet, so you can snipe him if you want. But AJ Dillon is coming off this board sometime soon, and yeah. I'm happy to take him. There just seems to really be a lot of running back talent. I'm not a huge zero RB guy, but I feel like if you wanted to stock with high end wide receivers in the first couple rounds, and then even take a wide receiver in round 4, round 5, you still got some talented guys there that can make you feel good about your RB1 spot or your RB2 spot.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love so many of the wide receivers this year. I feel like every round there's 2 or 3 guys that I'm just like all in on. With Brandon Cooks getting in the 5th round, with his talent, I'd be happy to have him as my wide receiver too. And I get him mainly as my wide receiver 3 or 4 in a lot of leagues, and I'm ecstatic to have that.
Yeah, I was just adding him to my queue and putting him up on top, and I went to click the add to queue button, and he got taken off the board there, Joey.
Yeah. It's tough to be in a league with me and get Brandon Cooks. I'll either reach for him or I'll get him right where he belongs.
He's one of those guys that's criminally underrated, and he always seems to fall in drafts. But it's like he's going to put up 1,008 for you.
Exactly.
He's consistent. That's one thing that a lot of the receivers nowadays lack is consistency from year to year.
And I think that's part of the reason why he kind of falls here. Is I think at this point, like a lot of guys are looking at like the younger wide receivers that could be like that next like boom guy that takes that step forward.
And to be honest, like getting him, you're usually able to get him as your 3. And that's really exciting. You know what I mean? Like that, when that happens, it's really, really exciting for you because ultimately that means you got 3 studs playing for you every single week. And even if you don't have an anchor running back, that's a huge advantage. Yeah, I mean, wide receiver and running back just feels really pretty deep. I do end up going a lot more. I mean, clearly I'm going wide receivers right now.
You got sniped there, Mark.
I did get
sniped. My
sniped.
favorite. Go ahead.
No, go. I just got sniped. That's all.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're instituting my favorite strategy this year for pretty much any position. That's just the hero RB. And I was very zero RB at the beginning of the preseason. Not even the preseason, just in the offseason. And I've really come around to just anchoring my team with one good running back and just loading up on all these like 2nd to 6th round wide receivers that I absolutely love. So I love what you're doing here. And you took one of my favorite wide receivers right there.
I'm going to keep it going, yeah.
Can we talk about the rising ADP of Damian Pierce real quick? And how absurd it is?
Yes, we can.
I didn't even see him there going in the 5th, and I look, and I took him. I've been able to take him, in the 8th like 2 weeks ago, and now it seems week by week it's just creeping up by around a week.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy if you think about it. If you look at what Damian Pierce brings to the table, he's got no competition now that Marlon Mack's out the building, which I guess you could look at as beneficial, but also you can look at that as a little worrisome because if they're putting all their chips on this rookie running back and he doesn't comes into a bad situation with not a great offensive line out there in Houston, it's going to be hard for him to succeed initially, and it's a little worrisome with him going so early. I don't know. I like him. I liked him earlier in the offseason more than I like him now with his ADP, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
My thought now is like if he's going in the 5th round in your home league draft, you probably should not draft him, right? Like you should not draft him. I would hope that any value you get from Damian Pierce was already had on your dynasty teams. It was already brought into the fold somehow. I really just hope that you're not looking to trade for him right now. I would not do that. You're probably giving up a 1st. That's not advisable.
If you can flip him for a 1st,
if you can flip him for a 1st, absolutely take it. Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. I think we're at a point where it's just like to the moon. Well, we've hit the moon. Like we're at the moon, guys. Like we're at the value. I know that running back is a very demand centric position, right? Like we wouldn't be taking all these running backs so early if they weren't in demand at the end of the day. But at the same time, just because one person shows you a flash in the preseason, that could be Amir Abdullah, and now actually I'm coming back around to entertaining the idea of drafting Amir Abdullah because he's back in the 14th round where he belongs, right? He's back in the 10th round where he belongs. Damian Pierce, great, nice talent. He's showing it out on the field. But for me, I can't get behind drafting him right now. I just hope you got the value before.
Yeah, I was extremely high in Damian Pierce this whole offseason, and this last week's been very sad for me because he's just shot up ADP. I'm a Gator fan, so I got to watch him at Florida, and he didn't have a whole lot of time on the field, but what I saw of him, I loved. So, and that's kind of interesting too because he doesn't have a whole lot of mileage on him. Oh, I'm up for a pick, and I knew who I'm taking. But yeah, so I've been kind of beating the drum for Damian Pierce this offseason, and up until 72 hours ago, you could get him in 7th, 8th round pretty easily. But now, 5th round's that's his ceiling. It really is at this point.
There's another guy here. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, guys. Keep talking about Pierce.
I was just gonna say, I think if he was on a different team, his situation might be a little bit different. But
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy to me that he's just going this high. I get why. I totally understand why, but I do not. I can't believe it happened so fast. Right? Right? Like, how did it come to this already? Joe, you had something. Go ahead.
Yeah, so one of the other guys that's still on the board here, and I know sometimes it's frowned upon to talk about guys that are on the board still, but this guy I think is falling really late in this draft here, and that's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on him going into this season? He's at the top of the depth chart there, and I mean, there's a lot of talk about the rookie out there in Kansas City, but what are your guys' thoughts on CEH?
I've been out on CEH since he came into the league, and I'm going to continue to stay out on him. I just don't think he's that great of a running back. Like I don't see the same what a lot of people saw in college. I just don't see that same type of burst, that same type of ability on the NFL field. I don't know what it is. It's like he's running in slow motion out there, and I'm not a huge fan of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and it's unfortunate that they keep bringing more and more guys in, which is also a bad sign. You got Jet McKinnon, who they brought back after the nice playoff performances they had. And then you obviously have the rookie that you mentioned. And then, I know he's kind of out of favor in most situations, but he did make the 53-man roster, and that's Ronald Jones. That's just a lot of, mouths out there. And I think it's really worrisome.
He seems to be one of those guys that seems to fall in drafts, and I can't stop taking him just because the value is so good compared to his ADP. I know I got him yesterday. I think right now his ADP is at 62.4, it says here in a one-man league. And I think I got him in like the 80s last night in my home league. It was kind of insane. I got him as my fourth running back.
It's really nice. Honestly, so can I be real for a second? Like, what's the difference? What's the difference for me between Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Travis Etienne? Okay? I see the Kansas City Chief, one of the best offensive lines in the NFL right now, probably a top 5 offensive line. As a pass catcher, if we're looking at those guys both as pass catchers, I think CEH is a better route runner. Joe Burrow called him the best weapon that he's ever played with. Actually, if we're going to go back to him as a receiving weapon, I really think that he's better route runner. He's got a little more time in. He was hurt last year. What did he have? I forget what he had. He had some medical issue that he was going through, either gallbladder surgery or something that had hampered him throughout the beginning of last season. Was dealing with it through the season. Now is a year removed, so interested to see how that goes. I just see the better team, the better offense that's going to be scoring more points, the guy who's going to be getting the majority of the touches and including the goal line. And I don't see why he's not going to get taken ahead of a guy like Travis Etienne. I get that, especially when Etienne's coming off that foot injury.
Yeah, I mean, I see both sides of that, but like, I'm not a huge fan of either of them. So I'd rather take a guy like James Robinson in like the 10th round or something than those guys, just because I feel like where they're going in that range of ADPs, even though they're falling, or like Clyde Edwards-Helaire at least is falling, I still would rather take a guy later who has opportunities. I just don't trust Hilaire, I guess. I mean, he hasn't really done much yet in his career, and he's been on that same Chiefs, offense, and I don't know. Maybe things change now that Tyreek Hill's out of the building and that offense is, morphing into something we haven't seen yet. But until I see it, I'm not sold.
I guess my real question though is, if Clyde Edwards-Helaire for us, we're so out on Clyde Edwards-Helaire that he's going in this draft in the 7th round, Joe's draft in the 10th round, the 9th round. I got him in the Scott Fishbowl, I believe, in the 9th round. All off season. Why is ETN going that high? Other than it's a sexy unknown player.
I think it's the home run factor, honestly. I mean, ETN gets the ball in his hands, he can bust it out for 80 yards on any given play. He just like that type of athletic ability. And I think with ETN too, with the outlook of him lining up out wide and in the slot and being a kind of a wanting to do that LaVisca role that people thought that he was going to have last year. And I think, I mean, with it was also looking at Robinson not going to be healthy for week 1, which changed things a little bit here now that he's back at practice and looking good. I mean, I'm still going after ETN just because, I mean, you're looking at those running backs in that 15 to 20 range, like who's going to be that guy that takes that step forward and becomes that RB1. I mean, I think there's always that one or two guys in that range that can step it up. And I think ETN as a PPR guy can really make that jump.
Yeah. I know that when we were out at the Expo a few weekends ago, we were watching ETN in the preseason. And I think, Parker, you mentioned the fact that he just doesn't have – I don't feel like ETN has the vision right now. He's great as a receiver, when he's in the open field. But as a running back, between the tackles, I feel like he just doesn't have that same type of vision as, someone like James Robinson, which is part of the reason why I'm big on James Robinson this year. I think he's going to get almost all the work between the tackles, which is concerning for me, especially with ETN's ADP, he's so high, you're risking a lot for a guy that you haven't seen yet.
And I would say that ETN's not really, again, with the ball in his hands, like you said, Taylor, I think that ETN is fast, he's electric, and he can make plays out in open space. But he's really only a dump-off guy. He's not much of a route runner. He doesn't have that route tree. He might be able to get a jet sweep, that kind of play off. But again, like it's hard, for me to see it happen. Especially again, a year off the injury. I know that they're saying it's all fine, but all of it to say again, why are we wait? I'm happy to take Clyde over to Hilaire where I took him. Why are we so happy to take ETN a few rounds earlier? I mean, I guess most of us are drafting wide receivers too through there, but
I mean ETN too has that draft capital. I mean, they have the money wrapped up in him. I think they're going to find a way to use him.
Sure. No, I agree with that. I'm just saying we're talking too much about this.
No,
First, it was the Julio Jones rant a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Now we got Pierce, and now we got ETN.
Yeah, no, this is good. It's becoming a hot take show apparently because that's what I'm all about. Let's see.
I have a question for you guys. I'm curious.
Go ahead.
I look at the Buffalo Bills running back situation. I saw Devin Singletary run off the board before my last pick. What are your guys' thoughts on the split between Singletary versus James Cook and how those, that's going to end up working throughout this season? Because I don't know. I've always been a non-believer in Singletary. I don't think he's that great of a running back, which is probably the reason why they keep drafting running backs. But he sticks around, and so I guess that's where I'm. What do you guys see? Do you think Cook's going to take that role moving forward as we get into the season, or what do you think?
I feel like Buffalo just keeps bringing in these running backs to try to take the job away from Singletary, and he keeps taking it away from them. I mean, Zach Moss couldn't seem to do it last year. We've had Matt Breida. We've had a lot of running backs come through there. James Cook, for me, is probably the one that has the most potential to. But I thought about Moss last year. So, I mean, Devin Singletary kind of reminds me of like David and Goliath. He just keeps slaying these Goliaths that they bring in.
I think we look at
Cook, just like a cockroach just surviving the nuclear.
Yeah,
the nuclear attack.
Exactly.
I think
like
a lot of the fantasy community looks at Cook and like thinking he can be like the receiving back there, but Buffalo doesn't really seem to be the like team that throws a lot to the running back. I mean, he might get a couple dump offs here and there, but Cook doesn't really seem to be, at least this year, someone that's going to be super fantasy relevant to me, or someone that I'm not going to take it as ADP unless something happens to Singletary.
So actually, this is the point I want to make about the Buffalo backfield. I actually think they're really they're super meticulous and utilizing each running back as a separate tool. If you watch their games, like they really do a good job of keeping Singletary mostly between the 20s. You're keeping and maybe a few rushes there on the way to the end zone. Short yardage almost always ends up being Zach Moss, and then you've got Breida. They wanted it to be McKissick. It's probably going to be James Cook now, and maybe with Isaiah McKenzie injured at the beginning of the season, maybe that helps buoy James Cook to some targets. But really what they do is they chop it up into a grouping that makes it almost none of them fantasy relevant, it feels like. Or if they are, it's like impossible to predict. And the Patriots do a really good job of this as well. And then on top of it, with Josh Allen being a rushing quarterback, takes away goal line touches, it takes away just general yardage that you might have getting down the field and earning first downs. So it just, I don't know, it's so hard for me to want to take any of those guys. I'm happy to do it. I'm usually probably just going to go and try and take Cook just because it's the devil I don't know, I suppose. But really, it's a tough backfield to crack, and I don't think, they're necessarily looking for the guy. We're looking for the guy, but I don't know if they are.
That's a good point. And it didn't really think of it that way, with the fantasy community looking for the guy, but that's a nice way of putting it. I'm a little worried though from the preseason. I felt like Cook wasn't as elusive as or quick on his feet as I expected, I guess. Being that he was supposed to be this great product, and then I felt like he in the preseason at least he looked I wasn't blown away, I guess, which is concerning. I expected a guy like that to be, blowing my socks off, and was really hoping for that, like you said, because he was in a great position to have a ton of success, if he can get on the field.
We're having a great time out here on Primetime Mock. We're at the last round of the draft. So it's kind of becoming time where we're going to just talk through all of our picks. Guys, don't take too long. Give me some of your favorite ads. Maybe if you made a mistake, somewhere you can mention that. We love pointing out your mistakes out here. Sorry, guys. If you made a mistake, tell us that. If you have some picks that you really like or values that you really like from your draft, go ahead and give us those. But try to keep it quick as possible. Shuey, why don't we start with you? Go ahead and give us your draft.
I goofed on the third round reversal. It got me. I've been here every week. I let it get me, but I'm still happy with how this ended out. I generally like to go for an elite tight end. I think Kyle Pitts is in that top 3 for me, and in a PPR league can definitely push for that number 1 if he gets the touchdowns this year. Really big on DJ Moore this year and Hollywood Brown. I think Hollywood Brown really kind of fell in this draft here. I think he's going to be the number 1 in Arizona, even when Hopkins comes back. Him and Murray have that connection. I mean, Hollywood Brown was Murray's number 1 in Oklahoma when he had CeeDee Lamb and Mark Andrews on the field. Looking late, I think there's always one wide receiver rookie that hits. So in those later to mid rounds, in those depth pieces, I like to take some shots at some rookies. So I took a shot at Olave and Burks, who I think could have some really big upside this year.
Yeah, I really like DJ Moore and Hollywood Brown. I'm good with Michael Thomas there. Hollywood Brown also a good candidate, and if I thought about it a little longer, I probably would have taken him. He was before me. Never mind, not my fault. The third round reversal got me there. But I really like Hollywood Brown this year. I think he's going to be great. I do think Hopkins will still come back and be a monster, helpful for their team.
He'll come back,
but it's not going to change. Sure. It's not going to change the chemistry that they already have. You're absolutely right there. I like Juju late, Penny right now. I mean, all these picks look good to me. Going with getting Olave late as well is nice there as well. Let's head over to Taylor. Taylor, you started with Dalvin Cook. Go ahead and give us your draft.
So the one that I absolutely loved is the value of Zeke Elliott this year. You mentioned it earlier. I think Zeke is one of the top values in terms of the running back position this season because he's consistently a top 10 guy every year of his career. And even though Tony Pollard's still around, I'm not worried. They're going to pay Zeke almost $20 million this year. They're going to use the man. So I'll take Zeke in the third round every single day. But I love the value of Chris Godwin this season, coming in like the fifth or sixth round, depending on where your draft goes. I know that people were a little worried about the injury situation for him, but even if he misses, 2-3 weeks at the beginning of the season, I would rather take Tom Brady's number one target. Last year, he seemed to be the guy that Tom Brady liked to target the most. Yeah, Mike Evans got some of the touchdowns, but I would take Tom Brady's number one target any day of the week in like the fifth or sixth round. And I just want to hit on one thing that I missed out on, which was because of my absence of the third round, or absent-minded with the reversal, because I was thinking I was going to get a quick turnaround. And so that's why I ended up with Zeke as my number 2 running back and Mark Andrews as my second pick. I probably wouldn't have done that, but it is what it is. And then I love the fact that I missed out on Ramondre Stevenson. Just a shout out there, because I was hoping he was going to come back to me.
Yeah, you're not going to get Ramondre from me. Sorry, unfortunately. Moving right along, we're going to Joey out of the 10 spot. Joey, give us your draft.
Yeah, so I normally would take Aaron Jones at this spot, but I wanted to try, we're mocking, so let's have some fun. I wanted to try taking Joe Mixon. He was right behind Aaron Jones in my rankings, so I wanted to try a team out with Mixon. Now him and Breece Hall have the same bye week, but I'm not that concerned about bye weeks. Love my receivers. Diggs, definitely wide receiver 1 overall upside. Tyreek Hill. There was that one clip of him and Tua that everyone likes to share because that the duck fly into the air. But, there's been some good stuff with, Tua and Hill this offseason. So looking forward to that. Lazard, I am so high on this year. Now he has moved up even higher. You could get him like the 10th, 11th round earlier this offseason. 6th round's probably a little high for him, but he was my next wide receiver. The Hawkins pick. I don't like Miles Sanders this year, but I like the value I got in the 8th round on him whenever he decides to show up. Russell Wilson, top 6 quarterback for me. Now, Brian Robinson, I would not normally take in the 10th round. I took that as kind of a statement. He's eligible to come back week 5. They put him on the injured reserve this morning. And Washington had big plans for him this year. And what happened to him was really tragic. And I do think he comes back this season. And when he comes back, like I said, they have big plans for him, but talk about motivation to get back on the field. I think he's going to be great this year, late this season. So he's somebody I'm putting like second to last round pick for me. And right now you can put him in an IR spot. And so I'm happy to hear that all the news coming out has been positive. So I want to be positive too with him.
Yeah, I like that. That's a nice thought for sure. He'll go right on your IR, which is nice as well. It's tough to know, right? I don't know exactly. You don't know. I don't really want to even get into it. But we're not gonna go into how that injury could affect him going forward. If he's gonna keep continuing his journey to play football, however that brings him, we're gonna know about it eventually, right? We're gonna see him continuing to work, and we wish Brian Robinson the best of luck, absolutely, in his recovery. Let's see, Parker. Where? Oh, I skipped right over you, Parker. I'm sorry. I thought you were hanging out in the corner. You started with Najee Harris. Is that a homer pick, or you got him there?
No, I actually got him in the 111 in the listener league draft. So I was like, you know what? If I've seen him fall, I don't want him to get past me here. But obviously, it's a little bit of a homer pick being a Steelers fan. I'm not too concerned about the Liz Frank sprain quite yet. If he starts to, miss a quarter and a game here or there and goes out and doesn't come back, then that'll start to concern me. But for right now, I'll stay positive on it. A pick that I really like here is Robert Woods in the 8th. Maybe a little earlier than I would typically take him, but I think he's going to be the number 1 target on that Tennessee offense. I don't think Treylon Burks is going to be the guy for Ryan Tannehill coming out of the gate. So for me, Robert Woods is a easy option for my wide receiver 4. And then with my last pick, Jahan Dotson, being a Penn State fan, this is certainly a homer pick. but they took him 16th overall for a reason, and I think he's going to pair very well opposite of Scary Terry. And I think he's going to be the rookie wide receiver to not have a Justin Jefferson season by any means, but come out and, take a step up in the year 2 wide receiver rankings when we're talking about them next year.
So, yeah, I really like Jahan Dotson. I really like him in that offense. I do worry a little bit about Wentz. I'm just not that big of a fan of Wentz supporting multiple receivers. For me, that just seems a little dicey. I've seen that game go before. It's been a little tough. I'm looking at Jahan Dotson though. I'm actually like staring at Chase Claypool one round over, and I just want to ask one quick question before we go to me. Should this be George Pickens here? I've gotten to the point where I'm like really, he's everything about him, because I've got a Steeler fan in the room. I've got to ask everything, all the news I've seen about him, all the plays I've seen him make, everything has come out good with George Pickens, and I haven't heard much great news with Claypool going forward. Is this something that might happen this year, where Pickens can be like a guy who's a contributor early in his rookie season?
If he what I'm assuming is going to be Mitch Trubisky find a connection right away, I think it will be. Yeah, I think Chase Claypool has a pretty short leash on him for this season, and they might look to move him because he's got really great talent. But if he can get his head in the game, then we'll see Claypool be the guy that you should have taken over Pickens. I've been staring at him a couple of times, like I guess in a draft I did on a Sunday. I had both of them right there, and it was my pick, and I took Claypool. All right, and I'm sort of hoping that his home run ability we saw his rookie year is going to come back with a different quarterback who can actually throw the ball down the field.
How do you feel about Claypool, Joey?
So one of my team members, Jay at FYF, is really big on Claypool this year. And while I like Jay as a person, we like to be opposite a lot. And I'm just normally not in on Claypool. I'll let somebody else draft him. I don't want a whole lot of the Pittsburgh offense this year outside of Najee. I did like where Pickens was going about 2 weeks ago, but in this draft, he went, 7th round? Second pick of the 7th round. Wow, that definitely could return value. I didn't even see
him go. Wow.
Yeah.
Woo!
Wow, that could return value. That's just, he's rising way too high for me.
Okay, I thought that he took Claypool and Pickens went undrafted. But that's a whole different story. I'm starting to like Pickens a lot, and it's just that momentum, It's just that momentum and just everything about him. It just feels like sometimes you have that feeling that this guy's just going to be a star, and I'm sort of getting that feeling with Pickens.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, for me, I really like ending up with Cole Kmet and Dak Prescott in the 9th and 10th round. If you're going to tell me that Dak Prescott's going to fall that far, he will. He has a little rushing. I think he's going to rush a little bit more than he did last year, coming off that ankle or off that injury. And to be honest, I've always liked him as a passer. I think he's going to have an electric year with CeeDee Lamb this year. This year specifically, Lamb, Kupp, Jefferson. It's just going to be a fun ride. Throw Debo in that too. I can't actually believe that I got him at the very end of the 2nd round. I really like that play a lot as well. But Prescott for me feels like he still should, or at least can belong in that top tier of quarterbacks, in that top 10. And in a 12-team league, if you're getting him that late in the 9th round, that's a steal for me. Kmet in the 10th, he's got a lot of PPR upside. Justin Fields, Bears be damned. Justin Fields is looking pretty good out in preseason. You're hoping that he can support Mooney and Kmet. I would imagine that Kmet is probably the second pass catcher outside of the running back, maybe.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I love the upside there. Michael Thomas, I think, is really undervalued. Could easily be. I'm not predicting it. He has top 15 upside for sure. He could pop out another top 15 season. And honestly, I think the Saints are going to be sneaky good, like playoff contention good. Maybe not making the playoffs, but competing for the playoffs down to the last week or two. I could really see them being a really good offense this year, even without Sean Payton. There's still some continuity there. There's chemistry with Jameis and Michael Thomas at the very least already. Kamara's there. He's there for the whole season. I ultimately don't think this is a season the Saints are just going to lay down and die. And if they're going to go for that, 9.5 wins seems like that's a pretty accurate rating for me. 9.5 wins is a pretty good line. And if that's the case, all those stars are going to be supported somehow in that way. So yeah.
People forget that Jameis threw for 5,000 yards the last time he was healthy. I mean, granted, it was Arians' offense, but I mean, he has the weapons to do it again this year.
And they don't. And who knows that
defense is good too. So they could be a very sneaky team this year.
That offensive line up the middle in Tampa Bay is not looking all that hot right now either. So maybe they can push out the GOAT.
I'd love to see
I'm not going to bet on that, but somebody else do that.
Pressure up the middle, Tom Brady's weakness.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the Giants did it twice. Two times. The Eagles did it one time. We don't have any Eagles fans in there, but Giants did it twice. You know what it is. Rush up the middle and Brady's toast. So let's all pray for that.
Whoa!
Not from our Scott
I'm a Bucks fan. Come on now.
I'm just messing with
the
you.
Giants have never beaten the Buccaneers in a Super Bowl. That is a fact. It's never happened.
No.
So,
I don't know why, but there's a when they're both terrible. There's a Giants. There's a Greg Schiano Tampa Bay Bucks Giants game. Coughlin Schiano. That I don't know why I remember. It's the game where he wouldn't let up. He wouldn't let up and just let the knee happen. He had to still go for the ball and it just. I don't know why. That's how I feel. That's like the whole my whole vision of the Giants rivalry with the Bucks.
I am a lifelong Buccaneers fan, and Greg Schiano is my most hated coach the Bucks ever had. My friends love to tease me. In my wedding album, like, you sign the wedding album when they come. My friends wrote Greg Schiano's name in there. I was so mad because Schiano had I believe just gotten fired as the Bucks coach right after I got married. So yeah, I was so glad to see him leave Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and everything brightened up. Everything's all bright skies right now. So
we get like one good season every 20 years, and it's like one really great season, and then everything else is just crap around it.
All right. What else? Is there anything I want to talk about in my draft? I like Ramondre Stevenson. We all know this. Outside of that, no, we're good. Let's wrap up the show. It's been great having you all here. Again, good luck to everyone out there on your fantasy drafts this year. Before we wrap up, we just want to get everyone's information. Joey, go ahead and let the people know where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at TheJoeyWright. I am with Front Yard Fantasy. Boy, goodness gracious. The 3 o'clock show every day, Monday through Friday. We've got 2 FanDuel shows a week, Sunday night and Friday night. And also, oh my God, huge news with Front Yard Fantasy. Every morning, Monday to Friday, 7 to 10 a.m. on the Better Sports Network. We have a morning show. I've called in every day because I love the show, even though it's with my company. But Simon and JL are on there with special guest host Coop for the rest of the week. It's really exciting. So download the Better Sports app. Check out the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. Oh, wait. Yeah, and I have a little series called Start Sits and Salutations. I go out into nature, talk to animals, and give start sits advice. My voice sounds a little different, but it's a lot of fun. And I met Marcus Chew at Expo, had a blast with them. So thanks for having me on.
Oh yeah, I mean it was a great time out there at the Expo. We met Parker and Taylor at the Expo as well. The Expo's an enchanted forest. I've been saying it for weeks now. It's you're just come to the Expo and be transformed is really all I can say. Other than that, let's go over the Front Yard Fantasy guys. Parker, let's go with you. Where can they find you?
Well, we're Fantasy Football in 5, so you can find us www.fantasyfootballin5.com. That's where we host, or I guess house, our podcasts, which you can also find on Spotify and anywhere you listen. But our articles are there, so you'll find our rankings there pretty soon. But we do a lot of our interactions on Twitter at FantasyFBallin5. That's the number 5 there at the end of the handle. So our DMs are always open if you guys are having any questions about what we did in the draft specifically, or just start sit questions in general. We're there for you every Sunday. Pretty much every day of the week. So, Mark and Joe, thank you for having us on again. It was a pleasure, and we loved meeting you guys at the Expo and have you guys on our podathon a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that was really exciting. We're glad that you met your goal. Actually, I think you met the goal in the hour that we were there. So that was a lot of fun too. And not that I'm not trying to steal anything away from you there. No, it's but add it to the resume just at the
Absolutely.
end. No, guys, it was great meeting you. Great meeting you. It's so, I still find it so funny that we went to the same college where nobody's ever heard of. But it's been great getting to know you over the past season and through the Expo, and this is what it's all about, coming out and meeting people. I have a great time out here on Primetime Mock, trying to grab as many people as I can to reach out. If you're somebody in the fantasy community or somebody who's interested in getting involved in the fantasy community and you don't know where to start, come on, do a mock draft. We're always looking to have you, but not this year because we're shutting it down. We're going into the fantasy season, and we're going to be doing our DFS show. Joe and I are going to be giving our best bets for the week, and we're going to be doing a snake draft DFS lineup every week. So stay tuned to that if you want to join in. We'll also be throwing a contest out there as well. For Joe, you can find him at Chewy_FF. You can find me on Twitter at Primetime Mock. Subscribe to the Primetime Fantasy Network here on YouTube. It's been great having you. Labor Day weekend's here. Go crush your fantasy drafts. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Have a good one, everybody.